Welcome into 11 Personnel. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. We are presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. They've been by our side for a very long time, but they've been on Kentucky's side for even longer, in business since 1895. Luckett, what do you think was going on in 1895? Did we have cars? I don't think we had cars yet. Your microphone is not on, and I had incorrect microphone on. Rough start here.
They were playing. Can you hear me? They were playing American college football. Back then, so we have that at least.
Were the Redlegs? They would have been around then, right? They were first baseball team.
First baseball team. So yeah.
They had to be around. I'm trying to think what else was going on. Oh, Gilded Age. If you watch that show, that was happening.
When do you think people started laying points for a football game? When do you think that started?
First ever.
They were betting on horses back then, I would reckon.
So I do not expect this detour while telling you that Monticello Bank is the proud presenting sponsor of 11 Personnel, where people matter, member FDIC, equal housing lender. But like I recently stumbled into an old recording of it was New Year's Day 1969, I believe, either 68 or 69, and my cousins were in the Vietnam War, and so my grandfather, he would make these audio tapes to send over to him, right, as like a little bit more than just a message from home. And some of those tapes got converted into like digital, so we could listen to it. So I had never heard a lot of my relatives speak before. There were some on there that I remember from as a kid, but like I never heard my grandmother or grandfather speak. My Uncle Danny Joe, he was a big part of the family. He had just suffered an accident about 2 or 3 years prior that made him a quadriplegic. So they're making jokes about how the night before they kept having to empty out his bag because he was putting the beers back at St. Helens. He was getting after it. And during one part of the tape, they're reading scores because you had the New Year's Eve bowl games. And, old Tennessee, they lost a big one to Ohio State. It was a great game. And the funniest part of it all is it's like, but the big game's coming up, Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. Joe Namath, he don't stand a chance. I'm giving my cousin 14 points, and hell, I should have gave him more. That's money in the bank. And I'm like, so that's where Fade Rouse started, right? That's where our gambling hot streak started.
What's the biggest Super Bowl underdog, I think, to win outright?
He's like, I'm giving him 14 points. I could have gave him more, and they end up winning outright. So I thought that was a very funny entry. Monticello Bank since 1895. We're not here to talk about Super Bowl III. We're here to talk about Kentucky football spring practice. We're going to give you a little recruiting updates. And, there's some shenanigans happening in our city, Mr. Luckett, that it feels like a fun thing to discuss today. But I guess we should start at spring practice. Did you blink, Luckett? We're already at the midway point. Can you believe it?
It's pretty crazy. They're actually even showing us in sports bars now, Nick, across the great state.
Oh, nice.
TD's out in Meade County, out in Brandenburg, right across the street, I believe, from Meade County High School. They are big fans of the
nice.
channel. So if you're out in Meade County, you need to go check out TD's Pizza, Wings. Wings are great. Great apps. Got cold beer, Busch Light on tap, which is a big hit out there, Nick. So we're going to get out there and I think do a remote out there at some point. But they're big fans of 11 Personnel and all of the shows on the KSR YouTube channel. Sources Say was on there when I was in the house.
Nice.
I believe the happy hour was in the rotation. So,
that's perfect. Yeah,
which is perfect, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
So shout out TDs. We're gonna have a remote out there, I believe. And if you're in Brandenburg or in the area, you need to get out there.
I've been a frequent flyer to the Meade County Fair. Once vomited on the whatever that sideways spinning thing is. I don't do the spinning rides, but shout out Brandenburg, shout out TDs. Did you see the? I guess it was Houston, where Iowa, Nebraska. No, it was Oklahoma City when Nebraska went there the first time. All the Nebraska fans showed up in the bars. People were asking if they had Busch Light, and they were like, Busch Light? Who drinks that? How like I know it reminds me when you go to a sports bar and they don't know how to put the TV channel on. Like, how do you host Nebraska or Iowa State and not know that you need to have Busch Light by the truckload in. Look at like you're leaving money on the table.
My sources tell me in Brandenburg, like at a couple other restaurants, Natural Light is on tap, and it's one of the top sellers.
Wow. I like the Busch Light in the bottles. I don't know. It's something about it.
Well, that was in college. I feel like guys our age, Busch Light was a little cheaper back then.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little bit more pricier,
but it was
a little cheaper.
It's about the same as Bud Light now, where it used to be the Keystone Natty Light price point, which is like $2 difference. There's not a big difference.
Yeah. So like I think that's where it maybe got popular. I don't know why, like in Iowa, that's just or even Nebraska. I didn't know it was a Nebraska thing. I guess it goes really well with the Runzas. Just chases it down. I guess that's the thing. I don't know. I knew Iowa State that was a huge thing. And on that, football wise, one of my favorite games to watch all year. We know this. Is to just see Iowa torment Nebraska. I guess it translates to the basketball court.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly how they've lost almost every football game I've watched. I feel like Iowa Nebraska football game on Black Friday ended like that, and like that basketball game did.
Heartbreaking fashion, right? Yeah. Like taking defeat from the jaws of victory.
Just in total control, euphoria for pretty much 34 minutes, but like Iowa just like quietly kept hanging around, kept making shots, and then before you know it, you're losing with 2 minutes left, and you're like, "What the hell just happened?"
Oh man, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I enjoyed the NCAA tournament. I enjoyed watching Duke lose quite a bit. Only 3 games left. Now we start to eye towards the summer. I've already got my Derby hat on. I'm fired up for Derby season. When Keeneland opens this weekend, that's when I really get the pulse of horse racing. Masters Week coming up around the corner. I know you'll be locked in for that. That's my. I don't like to do the golf wagering bucket too often because I feel I feel like you got to really be focused on who's getting hot and who's not. But the majors, that's where I kind of get in my wheelhouse. I've got my own little golf trip planned. We've got the spring game around the corner, so a lot of stuff on tap. Not just Busch Light at TDs. Have you seen the where my wife's from? They will always have the collectible cans too, where sometimes it's fish, other times it's corn on the cans. I don't know. Just throw a
cornucopia. Is that the word you're going for?
I don't know. I don't know what word I'm going through. I'm stumbling all over my words. We're not going to stumble over our words too much longer. We're going to talk about what's happening at Kentucky spring practice. First and foremost, if you want to go to the Kentucky spring game, the tickets, they are free. That's a nice reminder. They're free, but you have to acquire them in advance. Got to get dibs because the stadium is half capacity, give or take. So make sure you go to UK Athletics, secure your tickets in advance. So get to it, people.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the crowd at the spring game. Early kickoff. You never know what weather's going to be, right?
Yeah.
A couple years ago, you remember what Will Levis was last year, 2022, it would have been.
Snowing.
Like, it was awful. And then it was sunny when we left, remember? Like, it was just like a morning snowstorm that rolled through town.
And it was sunny.
That was probably the coldest I've ever been in that parking lot, was before we walked into that stadium that day.
We were playing tailgate games with Freddie's
That's
niece.
right, yeah.
They were not fazed by the cold at all. They might have had a couple of those Busch Lights.
I think a little drink called Fireball was sitting around the table over there.
Oh, man. Well, it's time to get on fire. We'll rev up the engines, talk a little Kentucky football. I have somebody calling me. That's not ideal.
Was it Vince?
No, it does not say no caller ID on it. It does not have that going on. Let's talk about Kentucky spring football, though, because this is the part where we get into a bit of a grind. Because, at some point, the coaches get to coaches and players. I mean, it's practice. What more are you going to say, right? Like, it's practice. But we have learned a little bit about this football team, and you know what? We've also seen some of this football team as well. Just highlights here and there. They've cherry-picked some of what we can see from practice, but like people are falling in love with all the Kenny Minchey highlights because he's putting it right where it needs to be, going downfield with the football. It's been a lot of fun to watch the new Kentucky quarterback go to work.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really excited about Minchey. I go back to some conversations I had at Pro Day, Nick. It was kind of backed up what I heard originally when Minchey was added that night. He flipped from Nebraska to Kentucky. Just professionalism is kind of the word I hear a lot when he's brought up, and just kind of being not necessarily dynamic athlete, but being nimble enough where he's able to pick up 8 yards on a 3rd and 7 if he needs to scramble, and the touch and accuracy down the football field. I think we've seen that all kind of play out, and they're showing that. I mean, they're more than willing to show that. And we have again heard. I think Stein has even gone record about this, saying, everyone I talked to, he was number 2 behind Carr, and it was bang bang close, and they didn't think it would be any different our season in South Bend if he was starting over Carr. That was a tough decision to make for them, but they ended up making it. But everything we've heard is that there's a lot of optimism and excitement about what he can be. And then that bet that I think Kentucky and Mitch Barnhart made, which was pretty much bet on Stein's QB acumen here. He's done nothing but hit on quarterbacks. I think there's reason to believe that he's going to do that. Again, from my scouting report back when I kind of dug into the data, did some research on Minchey, he's limited experience, but there's legitimate high upside due to a combination of raw tools and natural feel for the position. He can fit a modern RPO offense. He can run the boots and play action fakes that Stein's offense likes to run off the stretch zone action. Anybody who's watched Bob Beatty football knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then quick release accuracy should allow Minchey to be productive in the screen game, which Stein throws a lot of smoke screens. Screen's a big part of their process. But he also has the arm with the touch to be a terrific vertical passer. And I think what we've seen some quarterbacks in the past year at Kentucky, Nick, not necessarily, you can throw it a mile, but there's feel and touch and just knowing how to throw a vertical pass.
Yeah. The way that DJ Miller described it essentially is like he's not throwing hospital passes. He's putting receivers in a position to make a play.
Well, I think you look at the NFL, like Russell Wilson was known for the moon ball, right? But he was never thought of like a little power arm in the NFL, right? He was never on that list of big arm, all that kind of stuff. But when it came to a deep ball, he was as good as it got in the NFL. You do not need you don't need to be Paul Skeens out there to throw a go route. What a go route more is just ball placement and touch, and knowing and having a feel for how your receiver is running that route and how they're going to get off coverage and when they're going to be open and where to put the ball. And I think Minchey has potential to have some of that where I don't think we're going to see him and see a huge power arm, but I think we could see him maybe be one of the better, I think, deep ball passers Kentucky's had in a little bit. It's
a lot of fun just after not experiencing the most pass-happy operation over the last decade. You don't have to exactly be an air raid to be successful, right? You don't have to throw it 100 times. You don't have to have a tempo all the time. But there needs to be some elements to stretch out the defense, and Minchey is bringing that back to Kentucky this spring. One thing I found interesting, Mr. Luckett, I used to kind of joke when they would release the APR scores. Those don't matter if you lose, right? That's something you just kind of talk about when things are going well. When things are going poorly, nobody cares. But I think it's also noteworthy that he's very well liked in that quarterback room, around the team, just generally speaking, offense, defense. It's hard to have a successful quarterback if he doesn't have command of the locker room. And we've seen that at times over the years, Luckett, where that has not been the case, where there's been some players who like one quarterback and some players who like another one, and there's friction, and it's made for some awkward locker room settings. I don't think we're going to get that with Kenny Minchey.
No. I mean, they're all in on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
For better or for worse, really. So we'll see how it goes. What I'm most interested in about the quarterback stuff, and we've talked about this, what happens when Matt Ponatoski gets here this summer? And then will they have a depth chart in the summer?
Yeah.
The jury's still out. But I think they're all in on Minchie, which you should be if you go out and you pay the price to get a quarterback to come in and start for you from free agency.
Some of the players that we also wanted to talk about are the guys who are catching passes from him. The one that we expected to play a big role in this offense is showing up in all of these highlights. Willie Rodriguez, number 81 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, the tight end from Northern Kentucky. I think he's kind of slimmed down a little bit. He's always a big guy, but he just looks much more refined, and he needs to be because they're going to be asking him to move around more so than in the past. He's built like an inline tight end, but he's got the ball skills and the athleticism to be able to work and operate at the slot, create some mismatches there. I think you're going to see that. And, I don't know if I'm ready to make predictions on who's going to have the most catches, the most receiving yards, the most touchdowns, but I would be willing to say that he's among your top 3 pass catchers, and that is that's me being vanilla and boring. Saying he has the second most receptions and touchdowns is probably a little bit stronger take and more accurate like it, because I think he's going to play a big role in this offense.
Yeah, I think my notes back to when Willie came out or when he signed with Kentucky, long-limbed prospect as a true wide tight end, flashes play strength and surprisingly good movement skills on tape, has some blocking versatility inline and out in space, and a large catch radius with good ball skills. I think Willie is still kind of a work in progress, Nick, as a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've seen the ball skills, specifically as kind of a seam stretcher, just up the seam. I think you're going to see that in this offense out of some four-vert concepts and off-play action, just trying to get him the ball in space. But I think we've seen the ball skills. We've seen some of the movement skills out there. I feel like they could there were some verticals they had with Willie. I just feel like they couldn't really get the timing down last year.
Yeah.
They almost hit one, I believe, in the Louisville game for a touchdown.
Ole Miss game.
Down the middle.
Two.
Yeah, the Ole Miss game,
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of that is there, like a sneaky kind of vertical weapon for Kentucky if they can scheme it up right and hit him. So that is there. I think you looked at Stein's offense, tight ends have been involved. The tight end coach is Burke the passing game coordinator, or did that title go to somewhere else?
That's Coverdale. Coverdale got that title.
Okay. Well, but I think there was a time
coordinator,
Yeah. But Burke's an offensive coordinator. I think they're going to need the tight end position because wide receiver is a little bit of, I wouldn't say unknown, but it's some unprovenness to that group.
Yes.
So they're going to need that position to step up, and Willie, I think, is in position to do that. And so he's, I think, a big part of this team. When I write the, X Factors column ahead of the season at KSR Plus, he's going to be in there.
There's no doubt about it, because the mismatches you can create at that position when you have an athlete of that caliber, it can make all the difference in the world. And like you said, he's more of a known quantity. One of those unknown quantities was DJ Miller, who flashed as a true freshman, but how much is he going to grow in this offense, right? Like you're not 100% certain which way that could go. And just like how much of it was he was the only guy. But so far, it's looking like he is probably he's definitely the biggest winner so far of spring practice. Outside of just talking about Minchie, there's usually one guy that we spend most of spring talking about as sort of a revelation, and DJ Miller certainly fits that bill this year. Like it, if it's not a highlight to Willie, it's a highlight to DJ, and I think DJ's even getting more of that shine than Willie is. So you'd expect him to play a significant role in this offense as he kind of grows into becoming a go-to target for Kenny Minchie.
Yeah, you kind of look at DJ Miller, and he had a very, very similar year one to Harley Gilmore, right? Like pretty big recruit, really impressive in the spring, has a fall camp injury. Remember, Hardly broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
We don't see him until the last half of the year. He made some plays. Same with Miller. I think Miller made plays against more like legit competition than Gilmore did early. But you liked him. And then Gilmore just kind of had a left you wanting more kind of sophomore season.
Yeah.
Where you're hoping that that's not the case for Miller. But I think,
again, to interject quickly, part of that is Gilmore's weird off seasons where who knows what he's doing.
He wasn't here for the spring. Exactly right. He wasn't here for spring practice. You may think that doesn't matter, but it does.
Look what
specifically for young players, Nick. Player, specifically in a new system.
With a new quarterback.
Whatever. Just these young players, it's important. So for Miller, I think you're seeing him check that box. So you think he's ahead of where Gilmore was, and that's promising. Again, some of the things we've seen in high school, I think we're starting to see play out. This guy was a monster. 124 receptions, 2,297 yards, and 33 touchdowns during his final 2 seasons by St. Louis Cardinal Rip Ritter, which I believe is one of the best programs in that state.
Big one.
Big body wideout with a sizable catch radius, does his best work on vertical routes. Go watch the slot fade. That was confirmed against Tennessee. Terrific at ball tracking. He makes competitive catches against tight coverage. Vertical play creator, but not necessarily a burner. True X receiver who does not need great separation to be open was kind of my scouting report. Was my scouting report of him coming out of high school, and I think we've seen some of that. But I think we also seen some versatility for him. I think they're going to play him in the slot some. I think they're going to move him around. And again, you look at high upside potential players, and maybe the system change. Who does it benefit the most of the returnees? I think Miller is up there, and he's trending towards being, I think, a guy that can maybe have a really, really big season for Kentucky.
He's a high upside player. We've learned about another surprising high floor player in that wide receiver room, Brock Kaufman, which when he transferred from Louisville, you're like, huh? Who? What's going on? Because Kaufman is unlike many SEC wide receivers. He played at Single A Sayre, which didn't have a football program until very long ago. But in short order, he is sort of developing into one of those reliable guys that, may not be a high volume player, but is a great locker room guy, very intelligent player, very well spoken, charismatic individual who just makes the right plays. And while that guy might not always be making the Sports Center top 10 with highlight worthy catches, he's certainly making the case this spring that he will be a part of some important plays this fall for the Wildcats.
Yeah, Kaufman said some things when he spoke to the media this week, Nick, that made my antennas go up. One, he didn't start playing football until he was a freshman in high school. Chad Pennington, who was a head coach at Sayre, had to go convince his mom to let him play. So, this is only his 6th year of tackle football. So
he originally got recruited he was going to play safety at Ohio.
And that's what I was going to get to next. So, so I'm like, oh, hey now. There's some there might be more upside here than I originally thought, because in some ways he's just scratching the surface as kind of a football player. We talked recently just about kind of the video game numbers. He had at Sayre. I'll do it again. 168 receptions, 2,723 yards, and the big one, 51 receiving touchdowns over his final 2 seasons of high school football. Just an hilarious number here. But he's a guy, I think, if you're expecting him to come out 40, 600, 4 touchdowns, I think you're being unrealistic this year. But I do think he can kind of be that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, who maybe makes some big catches for the team this year. He can maybe be a guy that, has an upside in his trajectory. And they're also using him on punt return. And Mitchie has talked about him. So to me, what that tells me, just one, I think he has more upside than I originally thought. And 2, it seems like he's got trust in the building. The most important player trusts him, or is likes throwing to him. So there's something to be said for that. And then, I'm sure they're trying out a lot of guys on punts, but that's typically I got to really trust you from a coaching standpoint to put you back there. I mean, that's why they put Ty Bryant back there. At the end of the day, it was like, no one's really any good at this. We trust Ty more than anybody else. So we'll ride and die with what happens with him back there. But that's a lot of times a trust position that they're a punt returner. So to me, it tells me he's earned trust quickly of this coaching staff. And he's a guy I think has been one of the big winners this spring.
There's no doubt about it. He's got fast feet, making cuts on the turf. You don't have to be making cuts on the turf to get your feet right at Lexington Podiatry. They've been Central Kentucky's trusted source for podiatric foot care for over 2 decades. Their goal is to diagnose early, treat fast, and improve your quality of life. From sports to injuries, chronic conditions, whatever, they'll get you back on the right foot. Just make sure you visit them online, lexpodiatry.com, schedule your appointment. Even if you don't have anything wrong, they'll get you all lined up. If you do have something wrong, something minor, you got a little arch problem, they can get you some orthotics to get you taken care of. Whether it's just walking around or you're an athlete who wants to get your feet right. That the people with feet issues, that's just something you don't – it's like a bad back. You don't want that hanging around. Visit them at Lexington Podiatry right over there in Hamburg and go online, lexpodiatry.com. Check them out. Get your feet right this spring season. Well, again, I thought we had an interesting question in the chat because I will admit I was not expecting to hear Brian Robinson's name this spring, B-Rob. And Kyle asked if anyone knows what happened to him. You know, that huge DN that trained with Myles Garrett, because he was a social media star, one of those guys who looks great in shorts, first one off the bus, was a big-time recruit from a ranking standpoint, but he has yet to show up through his first 2 years in Lexington. And I admittedly thought he might just take the route of, you know, hasn't worked out, I'll go to a smaller school and play, because he's a bit of a tweener. So how does he fit into this defense? I'm not even exactly sure. Probably as a 3 technique. The part that was surprising was just that Amar Stewart mentioned him as somebody who's in the rotation, and I think that can work now that Bateman is saying we just want guys who can be aggressive, get uphill. McQueen Humphrey Grace talked about, you know, playing a little bit more freely. So it does sound like that he is actually getting in the mix, which, you know what? It's not crazy that's how most players work, right? In the trenches. Usually takes 2 years before you're ready to go. And it sounds like those engines are revved up and he's getting ready to go and be a part of this rotation on the defensive line.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you go to spring games, there's certain stuff you should look for and certain stuff you probably shouldn't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, something you should look at is just like how front 7 players look and how they move. And does it look like they, you know, like, do they pop at all? Like, Jamin Davis is who I bring up all the time in this.
Mm-hmm.
This redshirt freshman year, I believe he blew up a screen or something. And then it was like, hey, now, that looked different, right?
Yeah.
That looked like something that happens on Saturdays when you turn on college football game. Like that, okay, they might have something here. Whereas, like, to me, like, if receiver, like when they throw the deep balls in these spring games and receiver makes a play, I put no stock in that, right? Like, yeah, I put no stock in that, but I do put just like how big guys move and look, and then just how defensively, just how you run as a unit, and you get to see some guys tackle, and do guys when they tackle does it look different? So for Brian Robinson, does he look stiff and rigid, or does he look like a guy that, you know, is flexible, is comfortable, and is, you know, making plays and beating blocks? Or is he getting stuck on blocks? Do you look up and he's 5 yards down the field? And it's a huge spring for him, Nick. Like, if it's going to work here at Kentucky for him, it has to happen this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but him coming out, he was a 4-3 defensive end first. Like, that was his most natural position. And they're moving towards a defense more like that, even though they're going to do some kind of 3-4 stuff. But it's a more natural, I think, position. Year 3, all of that. It's got to come together for him. It's now or never. And he's maybe one of the more important players to, I guess, watch during the spring game.
One of the other names that I didn't expect to hear, it's the first time that we've gotten any sort of indication of who else could be in the mix in the trenches. We know Colton Price, Tegra Shabola, and Lance Hurd got paid top dollar to come to Kentucky to play football, but we don't know who's going to fill out the other spots. And that's where I was a little surprised that we heard Max Anderson, the offensive guard from Tennessee. He's originally from Texas, and I think that's where you get the connection with Cutter Leftwich. He's from there, was in the high school mix there, coached at North Texas. He was a big-time recruit out of high school, but he's just, I mean, he did the redshirt game. And so, you knew that there was going to be a handful of guys that could compete for that other guard position, and it sounds like he's certainly making the case this spring.
Yeah, former 4-star recruit out of Greater Dallas, Nick, picked Tennessee over Michigan and Oklahoma in the 2024 high school cycle. It's always been seen as kind of a guard-first prospect with good positional size and potential to be kind of a mauler, kind of in a downhill run scheme. Spent 2 seasons at Tennessee, didn't play. We thought he could get a really long look at kind of this left guard position, both in spring and then in the fall. And it seems like he's making some noise here, right? Again, that guard position we all thought was wide open. Jordan Knox, Abaselm, Hilm. I think you could throw another guy or two in the mix. It sounded like he's making some hay here, and that Texas connection might matter, right?
Yeah,
like he might just have a relationship with Leftwich. He might know a coach who Leftwich knows, so they might coach similarly. I don't know. There just might be more of a Leftwich might just have a better feel for Max Anderson than he does the other guard options. And so does that give him, some leverage in this battle? We'll see. He's going to be another guy I'm going to try to watch closely during the spring game just to see, again, how he looks, how he moves, and then who he's working with in this game and all of that.
Yeah, and I also am not sure. It might be for right guard because I get the sense that they're going to let Tegra rip on the left side in between Hurd and Price, but I'm not certain about it. We know we don't get a depth chart like it, so that's sort of a wait and see. But I will say those.
I have a feeling I'm going to be charting snap counts and where everyone is and who's playing with who when I go back in on my spring game rewatch. Maybe this year they'll let these games be like. Remember last year they wouldn't replay them. Like that was the big thing with Stoops. We'll have a spring game if it's not on TV.
Yeah,
and he wasn't the only one. It was like a thing across the country.
I guess now that they've taken away that portal, do you think they'll?
That was the reasoning for it. Yeah, I think so.
We'll see about that. I do like just the early returns on Colton Price from just all of what you want out of a center. He's a little on the shorter side, but he makes it work. And they had a great clip of him going one-on-one with Chops. That was awesome. Low man one, right? Like he got low, he got up under him. Communication's key at that spot. He certainly fits that billing. But the other one, Big Lance Hurd, this guy, pretty good at football, right? Like he looks like a modern pro prospect. I mean, we're just
he's top 50 pick.
Yeah, I mean because go through the list of just good to great tackles over the years that you've seen at Kentucky. A lot of what they're just at, it's rarely measurables that limit them, or it's either measurables or it's athleticism. Like Darian Kennard, great mauling run blocker, but he didn't have the measurables to play that position. Landon Young, he's made it work in the NFL because he's got the measurables and he's good enough athletically to be able to play those spots, but he don't move like Lance Hurd. Like this guy, he looks like he just ate too many ham sandwiches and had to go from tight end to tackle. You know what I mean? Like that, one of those guys that just was always a great athlete, but just kept getting bigger. So you're going to go be an offensive tackle and you have a chance to be a first-round pick. I mean, this guy's we're talking about feeding the studs at receiver. This is a stud at offensive tackle.
First off on Price, I think people enjoyed the farmhouse joke last week. I had a few people reaching me out on that. I think you have to be of a certain age, like the six-pack age, to get it.
They got a little nice when they moved over to whatever the frat row is now.
If you were around when the six-pack was barely hanging on, you laughed out loud at that joke. I'm pretty sure. Like you knew exactly what I was talking about.
They always won the tug of war competition too, and they used to practice. They would practice tug of war by wrapping a rope around a tree and pulling on the damn tree, like out in front of their frat house. It's insane.
Yes. The Colton Pride, we talked about him, multi-year starter, Big 12. To me, he's just comfortable in all these different avenues. He's going to be a good player for Kentucky there in the pivot. And again, having a experienced center, I think is going to help Minchie and Hurd. You've kind of hit on it. Like what we thought Kentucky got when he committed, there's been no change from that. Legitimate starting left tackle with size, terrific length, and very good positional athleticism. In the run game, I think Nick, he could be a really valuable asset. He's a really good puller. He's got, inside power as a drive blocker. I think he can run that kind of wide zone stuff that you need. Pass pro is where he still needs to, I think, evolve specifically as a pro prospect, but he's so damn big, right? And so wide. He's hard to get around. So if you don't get a jump on him, he can swallow a lot of people up. So that's key for him moving forward. And again, like not to bash on the hypo scheme, but that's why he's getting out of it because he's looking for a better way to kind of
sell himself.
Yeah. And so, that's where we are. I think with Hurd, he did his first year at Tennessee wasn't great. Second year, I thought he was really good. Last year, he's got, a package that a lot of people are going to like with the play strength, the size, and just how he moves. And again, I think he can really add value to his profile and for Kentucky. I think as a run blocker, he can bring a lot to the table. Then clean up some of the pass protection stuff, and penalties were high at Tennessee, 14 over 2 years and 1,600 snaps. Get that cleaned up. Kentucky's going to feel like I think they have one of the best tackles in college football if all that happens. And for Cutter Leftwich as a young coach, I think that'd be big early, Nick. Yeah. Get a guy, develop him. If you could get him into the first round or even the early second, that's something you can, I think, really sell here once, recruiting happens. Like this time next year, if Hurd's looking like a guy that's potentially a first-round pick, that's going to help you, I think, in the 28 class.
We'll get to the 28 class in a moment. We need to get to the defense because we only briefly touched on who's performing well on the defense side of the ball. And there's been a few guys in the secondary jump out. And I know you mentioned it a week ago, but lucky we got another DeMarcus Gardner shout out.
We did. It's everywhere now. That guy's having a spring.
We're catching the DeMarcus Gardner fever.
People forget DeMarcus Gardner's on this roster, Nick.
They totally do. Nick Roush included until this spring, right? I mean, because when the portal shut down and we were kind of looking at this roster, you just saw a dozen corners, and it's, well, who's it going to be? Outside of Tarion Nichols, it's hard to tell. And it sounds like Nichols is their top guy. This is the first spring he's gone through. I know he's been on campus for two of them, but this is the first time I believe. Maybe I'm mistaken with that true freshman year. He might have been healthy enough then. But he's getting a full offseason to be able to work after dealing with injuries the last 2 years during the fall. So it sounds like he's the number one guy. But after that, it's anybody's guess. And the other part, too, is if they're going to be playing this more aggressive style, you're going to be playing a little bit more man. You're going to be more 4-2-5. Like, you need to have guys that can cover guys, multiple. So who's stepping up? And it sounds like Gardner is amongst them that is stepping up in this cornerback room.
Yeah, I think he's interesting because he's a bigger corner. He's about 6'1", 6'2", but he's like when you see Gardner, just long arms, got a lot of length. He was committed to UCF, flipped to Kentucky, played receiver, I believe at a higher classification in Georgia. I'm not 100% sure on this.
He did return stuff too.
Yeah, I mean he had like good numbers as a receiver.
That I believe it was his tape that had the insane pick six where he covers like 80% of the football field, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like it's just like, is he going to return this? And he's just like, woof, 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 and goes to the house.
Last 2 years, 65 receptions, 19 receiving touchdowns. Also had 12 total interceptions during his time at Cedartown. Finished 5th in Georgia 4A long jump, clocked sub 11 in 100 meters. Again, I think he's a bigger quarterback. I don't know about like the long speed, just where he is, because I kind of like this fit as kind of potential zone corner for Kentucky. But again, they don't have a lot of size at corner, and you do want some of that. And I think he can kind of fit that. And so he's a guy that I think is maybe in position to surprise this season, which I don't think many people thought. And it sounds like Grant Grayton's also
playing well,
impressed early.
Yeah.
So there might be a spot for him and Grayton, maybe because you look at Sykes and Nichols, neither of them are what I would say they're both sub 6 foot corners, I believe. And so is there going to be situations where you need more size? And then I think potentially Gardner and Grayton can give you that.
They're bringing that to the table. It would be nice just to see Grayton build on that freshman year where he got thrown into the fire, and you can sink or swim, and he did not sink. He did not sink. So it's good to hear that he is building off of that quality year. I'm trying to think. We had a list. Did we get to everybody on our list?
I believe so.
We did it.
Yep. Going through it. Yep. That was the 10.
Okay. That was the list. We do need to get to who we didn't talk about, but first I need to tell you, friendsofcolekentucky.org. Friends of Cole. Cole keeps the lights on. Visit them, friendsofcolekentucky.org. Cole's resilient and reliable. It's affordable. Shout out to Friends of Cole, friends of 11 personnel. Become a friend of Cole today. There's 2 positions we didn't mention. I guess technically 3 because we only briefly dabbled with the defensive line, but I think, generally speaking, people feel pretty good about where this defensive line stands with Humphrey Grace, Tavian Gadsden coming back, and then adding chops into the interior. But it is a little – we haven't heard much about linebackers, and we haven't heard much about running backs. Now, granted, they haven't brought him out to go talk to us. I know they brought out Godfrey that one day and Antoine Smith, but that's a position with a bunch of players who don't have a whole lot of experience like it. There's talent there, a lot of talent, but not a whole lot of experience. And you thought, okay, well maybe Godfrey is the Mike, and they have other guys play off him, but they're playing him at some other buck position, and seemingly relying on Bo Barnes to be that guy. So, am I surprised by this? No, not at all. They're probably drinking from a fire hose a little bit, right? I mean,
sure.
They don't have a ton of experience. This is a new system, new place, young players who just redshirted. It sort of should be the case. But that is, when we get down to the nitty-gritty in August and the games are getting closer, this is going to be one of those where, we'll see how they fit the run. Hopefully they can do it against Youngstown State because Alabama has not been good at running the football in recent years. If they're able to run the football on you because your linebackers aren't fitting the run, then it's a serious concern moving forward. So it's on our radar, right? Like it's right now we're dealing with the scattered storms, right? We got Mark with C. He's up at the board telling us about the Euros and the GFSs and the models. And it's just that little blip out there in the distance. And you don't know if it's going to make it to you or not. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if it's going to make it here, but there's just something to keep an eye on. Certainly is the case with the linebackers, and I think you can say that about another position too. Like it.
Yeah, with them, it's just they're so young, and there's probably going to be some growing pains there. What you need is kind of Godfrey, I think, to be a kind of rock for you. They're one of the spots, wherever you want to play him. He needs to be a rock, but there's going to be some growing pains, I think, with that group. I think, Barnes is a guy I feel like, Nick, they tagged to be kind of their Mike. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to, I think, put him in there, and there's going to be ups and downs and see what you got there. And hopefully by the end of the season, he turns into maybe a guy that could be one of your best players going into the next year. And then Tavian Wallace is just like athleticism, just oozing off the charts. Just got to learn kind of, I think, the ins and outs of playing linebacker. Not too different from his brother, right? Like Trevin he was very raw when Kentucky first got him. And then kind of, even now in the NFL, you see him getting better and better. Mm-hmm. Where I think Tavian is like that. He's such an athletic freak that, sometimes when they play Tavian, I just want to, I feel this about Antoine Smith, just tell them to just go run after the quarterback, right? Like, just go chase quarterback and get him down. That's what they do with Trevin some, I think. His first year was basically like, you're delay blitz, just Just go. Just go get the quarterback.
Right.
And so but I think Barnes is a guy they need to settle in and be a good player for them. As soon as that can happen, the better it's going to be for the defense.
Speaking of Barnes, there's a Javonte Barnes on the other side of the ball, C.J. Baxter, Jason Patterson. Haven't heard much about the running backs. And generally speaking, I mean, it's hard when you're not tackling to learn a lot about these guys. It's harder when, let's be real, everybody's focused on the passing game because it hasn't been there. And the other part, too, is the two guys you brought in have dealt with injuries. How much are they even going through this spring? So there are questions out there about Kentucky's running back room, and I think those questions they're going to continue to linger as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been crickets on the running backs. So like, who's there and who's playing? Is anyone unavailable at the spring game that we just don't know about? Right?
Yeah, probably.
That's what we're going to find out. And so they made a bet on two experienced guys with injury histories. And so where are they at there, I think, is something to follow along. And then depth-wise, Nick, I just don't – like you've got Patterson. Mizell is just – you just have no idea, right? And then you've got a freshman in Deuce Austin. That was a other coaching staffs.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. The running back, it's a big we'll see for me at this point.
Classic Mark Stoops. We'll see.
Classic Mark Stoops. Yeah.
Classic Mark Stoops. We'll see. Let's get to a few other things like it. But first, I think we got to just take a quick time out on the football conversation. Dan Hurley, covering machine. He's at it again. The absolute lunatic. He's 17-3 in the NCAA tournament at UConn. 17-1 over his last three tournaments. I blindly made that wager after I don't know. I cashed a ticket, so I was feeling good. I was like, screw it. Who's the early game that day? We want to bet on that game. Yeah, Michigan covered easily. So I'm like, you know what? Let's see if we can win one more. Let's bet on UConn and Dan Hurley. I pulled up the BetMGM app. I thought I was toast halfway through. I wasn't even really watching the game. I went and took baby out for a walk around the block. It's like, it's a nice day. Let's get outside. That game's over with. And my wife stayed at home, and she'd text me, hey, are you watching this game? And I wanted to be like, no, I'm walking. I'm not watching the game. I'm not locked in my phone. She's like, it's crazy. UConn's doing it again. And damn it, they did it again. It was a legendary performance. Make sure you're playing with the BetMGM app to make it a legendary postseason, legendary baseball season, whatever it may be. Up the ante with BetMGM. I'm certainly glad to see where my BetMGM account is right now after a couple weeks of the NCAA tournament. If you haven't gotten in on the action yet, what are you doing? Download the BetMGM app right now. Use the bonus code ON3, and you're going to get a nice little first bet offer up to $1,500 back on your first bet. So whatever you make your first bet on, if it doesn't hit up to $1,500, you're going to get it back in bonus bets with BetMGM. And on top of it, you also get 50% off an annual subscription to On3. It's an outstanding deal, one you can't afford to pass on. So go ahead, download the BetMGM app, use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. You're going to get that great first bet offer and 50% off On3 when you sign up. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. At first, bet offers for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino Hotel. Shout out to our friends at BetMGM. Have you looked at the board any this weekend yet? Look at.
I have not. I've been looking around at a bet I like to do, Nick. I don't know if it's for everyone. NBA playoffs are about to start.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you can bet the team to win, which you can get some odds on, but you can get better odds on Finals MVP.
Oh yeah.
So if you think the Thunder are going to win, just go ahead and play Shea right now. If you think the Celtics are going to win, play Jaylen Brown right now. If you think that the Knicks or the Pistons, play Cade Cunningham or Jalen Brunson, or if you think or if you think the Spurs, play Wemby, right? Like those are the best odds you can get. So, but I think the NBA playoffs is a little wide open this year. So that it's a little harder than normal, but in the past you could just get decent odds on that and just let it ride if you pick the best team.
You could also parlay a championship future too, which I think I might just take Illinois to win it all. They got the most juice, and on top of it, they're probably playing the best basketball out of anyone. So fascinating Final Four ahead this weekend. We'll be locked into it. Fired up on KS Board. Come hang out with us on there. Chat about it. We're having a great time over there on KSR Plus. Got a lot of great content. A lot of great recruiting content coming out from Justin Rowland. He actually had the scoop first on KSR Plus that the Cats are hiring a new director of recruiting. Erin Love, I believe, is her name. I had it just pulled up 1 second ago. Yes. I want to make sure I'm getting it right. Yes, Erin Love. It's Erynn. So it's a different way to spell Erin. Threw me off a little bit. She's a Tennessee grad. Don't hold it against her. She got out of there. She was smart enough to get out of there. But it sounds like she's replacing Daniel Braswell's job as director of recruiting, which this job is a very logistical position. Not to say that they're not doing anything, but this is like she created the portal house like at Tulsa. Did you see any of those clips?
Yeah. I mean, I doubt we get to talk to her, but I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, because it was like, let's just get everybody in a house and we'll film everything and turn into some content. And it was fun. It was outstanding content. But like that's her background. She's been at some big schools. She knows how those operations work. She's also been creative at smaller schools. This job's big on making the recruiting visit experience as top-notch as possible. And we've seen them get some big names in there. When you get them on campus, you got to blow them away. It's her job to do that. She'll be working directly for Jarrett McElwain, who is director of player personnel for the Cats.
Yeah, I think logistics is right.
Yeah.
You know, if the players need a good cookie cake, make sure you're getting the best cookie cake.
Yeah.
Make sure I would assume make sure they're getting picked up from the airport.
Right.
Flights, make sure the car service is there and ready to go and booked, and stuff you don't think about, but stuff that is pretty important because you want to have tact during these. You want to look like you got your SHIT together for you all listening in the car for the kid. Yeah. So
he loves to spell out SHIT, and that amuses me. That amuses me.
So yeah. Those are important because it's just kind of there's a lot of moving parts, especially on these recruiting weekends, Nick.
Yeah.
And these are everyone at like coaches and personnel staff, they all got things they're doing. So you need someone to make sure, you're getting station to station essentially. So these visits go as seamlessly and efficiently as possible.
Even just getting booked flights. That sounds.
Yeah.
This one job I would not want. I'll tell you that right now. Would not want that job for a second.
Is that what Greg does for Jeff? Is he like the book the team hotel guy?
I know it's what he originally was. I feel like he's probably pawned that off on somebody by now. But who knows? The money's tight over at the University of Louisville right now. Money's real tight. If you were not awake at around,
they're going to be doing team dinners at the St. Bernard Fish Fry if they keep this up.
I mean, it's one of those things where like you don't want to point and laugh too much because they are kind of cleaning up on the recruiting trail. They got Jihad Brown. That was a big deal. But yesterday was just a poop storm. I mean, there was a 18-hour run of just madness on Louisville Twitter of people taking sides, the infighting. It was comical because it all initiated when Jeff Brom, he went on Mike Rutherford's show, and Rutherford asked him about his contract situation because it was, I'm wondering if Rutherford got tipped off by it too, because it was unusual, right? NACO's had that report that a contract extension was in the works. But
we joked about it at the time that, because they said it in like November or something. I can't remember.
Before the carousel, it was before the carousel really reached a fever.
I think it was during when Penn State was opening, because their search started like in, before Halloween. And then like they went back again and said it's get done with Michigan, but because I remember pointing this out on the board. It was like that's still not done. So like if it was done, they would tell us. There's no reason they would sit on that. So yeah, that was weird. And that wasn't typically Jeff Brom's very masterful at saying nothing. Every interview he does. And I was like, well, that's a little out of character, even though
he said nothing.
He stopped. He paused, and then he was like, it was almost like he just flipped the switch to F it mode. I'm just doing this.
Yeah, because it was like a pointed nothing burger almost. You know what I mean? Like the words didn't really say much, but he was like, I'm just not going to comment on it right now. And he said it with a tone that kind of got people to be like, oh, that's a little off. And then Ty Spalding shared that Jeff Brom and Josh Hurd met this week and to talk about a contract extension with Jeff throwing Josh Hurd out of the office. And boy, did that start a poop storm. You had J-Bone chiming in from Nashville, Jared Stillman, who used to work at U of L and did U of L radio. He was there with Josh Hurd. He is Josh Hurd's number one fan. So you had people taking sides. Andy Sweeney's got his sources. Andy Sweeney, not a source guy. He's got sources. Eric Crawford's got sources. Like it is just, just madness.
Burners are confirming Ty's report. It's just
it was just pure comedy. And the part that's weird in all of this is that it's happening now. This is not like I'm Jeff's relative. I'm not his agent. I'm not giving him any advice on anything he does with his job. But now is not the time to negotiate a contract extension. Basketball coaches, Mark Byington can get a contract extension because the North Carolina job's open. You got to sign whatever you got to sign when those jobs are open because then there's no real threat. I mean, what are you going to do? And now I don't know if the hang-up – so it sounded like the initial push was they just wanted more money to buy players, right? And they got it, and now there's a hang-up on buyout and all this stuff. But – the funny part about all of it, Luckett, is it's in the backdrop of U of L's administration crying poor. Sure. I mean, they are writing letters about how like this is unsustainable. Like this, when all of the like that letter that was it the president penned or the board of trustees, whatever they put out was big. Like it moved the needle for all these national insiders as power conferences. And I should say the SEC and Big Ten kind of fight with the Big 12 and ACC and everybody else on how they're getting paid. So like it's fascinating to see just like all of the levels of how it's playing out because seemingly things are going well for Brom there, but this is making a big stink, and it's fascinating to see how people take sides in all of this. Very funny to watch from afar.
Well, it was an admittance of like we can't keep up with these two, Big Ten and SEC, and it was almost like if these don't change, it's going to be very hard to support the two big ones.
Yeah, football and basketball. Yeah, we got to pick.
You have to pick one, and then maybe it's the thing where you ride a wave while they're hot, and then when they're not hot, then you go. And so that's hard because like they threw a lot of money behind Pat Kelsey to try to get him going. They spent a good amount of money on that roster, I believe.
Yeah.
This basketball roster
this year. Tournament game. Yeah.
And then obviously with the Brom, they feel like they're close over there to get into the playoff. They hired Vince. Vince wasn't necessarily a cheap hire. So I also wonder, Nick, too, is that why if money's an issue, is that why he just did promote the DC thing? Because if you're that close, that felt like a time for them to make a splash. Like, let's go out and get someone. Let's pay some money to get someone here, and let's go after this since we're so close. that felt like I don't know about you, but I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I didn't suspect that, particularly when. But I mean, the defense did play well for them a year ago. It's just, and on top of it all, he's not just a regular old football coach. I mean, that name means a lot more to many Louisville fans who are willing to gloss over. They were pissed off when they lost to Cal. Don't get me wrong, but these times where they have been on the precipice but haven't quite made it, he gets more grace than most. Which he should, right? He's one of their own. He's got them playing at a high level in a power conference, and now, the part that is just kind of not great for Kentucky's sake is that the engines are sort of revved up right now, but they do need to capitalize quickly. They're striking while the iron's hot on the recruiting trail. They're doing the old Vince play where they get a lot of guys early. And they did get a commitment from Jihad Brown, who 4-star talent, top 300 player, led the state in receiving a year ago. Kentucky wanted him. They made a push for him, got him on campus a couple of times. He committed. And, our old pal Vince, I think he was listening to KSR the other day when I was discussing this, because I made the 100% accurate, not fake news comment that it's not over. Vince has been recruiting this kid for 7 years, seemingly, but it's not over. It's not signing day. We have followed Chris Vaughn recruitments for much longer. Vince has been a part of them. He knows the roller coaster ride that they are, and what's going to happen is that offense is going to get to humming at some point, and you're going to see Jihad Brown just randomly show up for one football game. We're not going to know it until he's there. And then Louisville commit Jihad Brown's on the sidelines. It's going to happen, and it's going to cause a poop storm. It's
Will Fong will be the one that reports it.
Yeah, but Vince, he did not like to hear that on the Kentucky Sports Radio airwaves. And you know what? I'm not backing down. I'll double down. Like this thing, if you think that a player of this caliber, a Chris Vaughn recruit, is just going to be wrapped up in a bow before April and there's going to be no drama. Like, what world do you live in? Like, it's the same. Like, there's a couple people who I respect their grind that cover U of L, but like who clearly just have not. Like, they're just so insulated from the sports world in general. Like, some of the stuff that I hear, I'm just like, do you all not know how football recruiting works? Like, this is early. There are going to be a lot of hold on to your butts when you get down in the stretch, because they're doing the thing where they're trying to get everybody locked up before the wave of official visits happening. Where
they finally went through the one and done ringer, which I enjoyed this year. Just them freaking out over the draft asset that might have been protecting the stock or whatnot. That was tough on them. But yeah, I think they haven't had recruitments like this, or like we expect it to be. I mean, this is a kid that people thought was an Alabama lean, right?
Yeah, he went like a 4-3 there.
Receiver coach leaves. Jamarcus Shepard's the head coach at Oregon State now.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves, and then he commits to Indiana just real quick, and then backs off that pledge 2 months later. Doesn't wait long to commit to Indiana or Louisville, excuse me. So I don't think it's crazy. This is a guy. I mean, it's a kid put up big numbers. A lot of people are going to want him. It's not even like, I don't even want to say it's a Vaughn thing. Like,
yeah, he's just good. He's good. He's a smaller guy, but he's a good ball player. And
yeah, it's just you're in the snake pit. So like,
yeah, and Louisville hasn't been in the snake pit often. I mean, outside of the year where they had what was that guy's name? That was like he had the really dumb title of it was Pierce Clarkson's guy, not the dad, but the other guy, like the recruiting influencer guy.
I can't think of. To the chat, help us out.
Oh gosh, it's such a douchebag, like just grade A douchebag. But that was the only time Louisville football has dealt with big boy recruiting, and it was very hollow, right? Like, you were recruiting one guy to hopefully get 5 and throwing a bunch of money at him, and there was in the infancy of the nil stages. You need to do the high school thing and they're doing it with Vince, and it's going to be an experience. You got to hang tight through, and I think generally speaking, Kentucky fans are having to hang tight right now because we can't really sugarcoat it. Look, they're getting a lot of big names on campus, but they aren't hitting. I mean, they've gotten some players. They've got players, but they aren't getting all the big ones, right? You had Driver go to Oklahoma, Brown go to Louisville, and then the one that is disappointing is Tristan Hughes, the 4-star kid from Ohio, was committed to Syracuse. It's really Kentucky or Virginia Tech. You were scheduled to get him on campus last weekend before his commitment, which is tomorrow. This is canceled. RPM picking for Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
It's not ideal,
Yeah, they're losing a couple right now, so they need to win some, but they are playing a little bit, I think, of a volume game.
Yeah.
So they're still.
You don't have to chew up all your bubble gum and put holes in the dam, right? Like there's a lot of time and a lot of targets, and I think that was the concerning part in the past in our Stoops is that there just wasn't like who the hell are they even going to get? They're at least getting a lot of these guys. It's just okay. When push comes to shove, ultimately you need to get 1 out of 5 or whatever, right? Like you need to get some of these big names, and a lot of it could start if you get that quarterback in the fold because you know how these things go. You kind of get
guys are still coming in here over these next 3 weekends, so you've got time to maybe add a couple in April, and then your June push. You're going to have a lot of what I would call or tag as priority targets making their decision off of that. So you need a good close in June. But I have kind of I've started digging in the tape on some of these guys, and I'm going to have kind of some scouting reports and evals up at KSR Plus here soon. Nick, I'm a big fan of Ty Ashley. Let me tell you. This is a man's linebacker, man.
Nice.
I'm a big fan.
They speak highly of him in Owensboro. Very highly of him.
I mean, you talk about like that's a Mike linebacker. I'm just gonna say that. I'm so excited. I want to go. I'm gonna look up the Owensboro schedule and try to swing a game. Like this guy, I like his game. I like how he plays. He's even like when I first started the tape, I was like, but then he shows more athleticism than I maybe thought he would. It's kind of in coverage. I like his game, and he looks a lot bigger than his listed size. So I would actually like to know what his size is. But I'm a fan of Ty Ashley. I just want to put that out. Okay. I understand why Notre Dame was knocking on that door because he looks like a guy I've watched play middle linebacker Notre Dame a long time. Yeah. He fits that prototype, and I think he's going to be a really good get for Kentucky. And I think he's in prime position to be kind of a rankings riser here as we get into the cycle.
Something to keep an eye on. We're going to be keeping a keen eye on spring practice. We got Thursday and Saturday updates incoming. I'll be manning down the website all day Saturday. First off-season weekend, like it for the old weekend crew. So that's going to be a marathon from the old Buckeye State, a little Easter celebration. We're spring breaking. It's if you got kids, spring break's coming up. So
you got it easy though. It's Final Four Saturday. Baseball's going on. Softball's going on.
Dude, that marathon you had last
night.
I was up late watching Tyron Stokes, and I was admittedly a little pissed off. I was watching the McDonald's All-American game, but seeing how long that baseball game took, I was like, well, you know what? I wouldn't trade like it. At least I know what I'm getting with this McDonald's game. That baseball game, that was 14. I mean, it's one thing to have a bunch of pitching changes, but also 25 runs in a baseball game.
I was not a fan of the Miami, Ohio skipper. I will say that. There were multiple innings of 3-4 pitching change, a pitcher per inning. I looked up at the 6th inning was over. It's 3 hours. So I was like, oh my God, this could go 5 if things get a little crazy.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully they get it done this week. We'll carve out some time next week while we're out and about all across the country visiting family to get you a new pod. But if you haven't done it yet, secure your spring game seats today, 4:18, 11 a.m. Just go ahead, get it taken care of. And, we got Bluegrass Steaks on Saturday too. Like it.
Oh, yeah.
Big preference.
Got that. There's plenty for you to blog about. Just get to the desk early and Crank some stuff out.
You best believe we're gonna be looking at that opening day program, and we're gonna be making some wagers. Oh yeah, KSR Plus. That's where I share the horse racing stuff. Derby favorite was supposed to be in the Bluegrass, got scratched. Paladin, undefeated. That was a real bummer. So it's wide open. That means it's a good opportunity to make some money. Hopefully you make some money this weekend. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We took a little bit longer to get on, but we would have been a little bit longer to give you some extra content. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. For Adam Luck and I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.